One of the things that I think I struggle with, specifically due to my autism, is getting started on things. And I've kind of done a little bit of looking into this, and I think it just has to do with one, the executive functioning challenges that a lot of us autistic folks have, especially when it comes to starting something new, stopping something, switching tasks, and things like that. And also, it's like my brain gets like so stuck on whatever it is that I'm focused on, especially if it is something that I'm like really interested in. And then switching from that to something entirely new, it feels almost impossible sometimes. And so I kind of wanted to share just like a few tips that I've gained over the years that I personally use in my life to help me with my own, I guess we can call it like motivation, but also just like getting started on things. The first thing that I would say is I know personally, and I'm speaking from experience, that in my life, if I'm getting started on something that feels like a really big or daunting or even just like a new task that I don't have much experience with, that's when it feels the most difficult for me. And so figuring out what the next step is as opposed to looking at the thing as a whole, if that makes sense. I know that like even just like breaking things down into smaller steps can be hard sometimes, but it's not even that. It's just focusing on, okay, from where I am right now to what that next step is. Let's think of an example. I just took a shower. So let's use just taking a shower as an example, and this could be just kind of like an example that you can kind of use and then put your own life into it to make it more relatable to you. So let's say that I need to take a shower and I'm having a really hard time switching tasks from working at my computer to actually taking a shower. And sometimes I do struggle with this, especially if it's one of those really difficult executive functioning days. If I'm feeling more fatigued, if I'm feeling burnt out, if maybe I had a routine change, or if I had just like a hectic day beforehand and I'm just don't have the brain power to even like figure out how do I get up from what I'm doing now to going on to the next thing, which in this example is taking a shower. So instead of just like breaking everything down into smaller steps, just focusing on what that next step is. What can I do right now sitting at my desk to get at least some momentum going to go take a shower? Well, I think the actual next step is to put my feet on the ground and stand up. Okay, I did that. Now that I'm standing up, what do I do? Okay, I'm going to walk out the door, I'm going to open the door, and I'm going to walk into the bathroom. Okay, now that I'm in the bathroom, what is the next step to do? And so on. And I think instead of pre-planning everything out, just taking that next step can help a lot, because it kind of gets you out of the hyper-focused state that you might already be in, and it changes your where you are in time and space, like quite literally. Now you're in the bathroom, but then it helps just like get that momentum going. And this doesn't always help, but I do find that just getting a few steps out of the way, it eventually gets a lot easier with each of the following steps. And this could be something that is what seems as simple as taking a shower, but for those bigger things in our lives too. If it's like maybe some goals that we have, maybe it's being more active or exercising more, to like work goals, or even just like literally anything. So just focus on what that next step is, as opposed to looking at it as one giant thing that you have to tackle right now. Because I know that I can do that next step, but I don't always feel like I can tackle that big thing. And with that said, if you start to do those next steps and you can't get to that big thing eventually, that's okay too. Those small steps are still progress. Maybe I'm having a really hard day, and I can't get myself to take a shower for whatever reason. The transition of it, the sensory aspect of it. I usually do enjoy showers, but sometimes it does just feel like too much. Again, especially on those days where I am feeling really overwhelmed or really overstimulated. Okay, so maybe I didn't get to taking a shower today, but I got into the bathroom and I was able to brush my teeth. I was able to put on some deodorant, or at least like wash my face or something. And that's okay too. And that leads me to the next tip that I have is count your small wins. I know that for me, as such a black and white thinker, and someone who thinks very rigidly about everything, it's just the way my brain works. It's something I'm actually working on in therapy right now. If my intention was to go take a shower and I didn't get that, I would usually feel defeated. Like, oh, I didn't get that, so all my progress up to that point, it meant absolutely nothing. And so if you can also relate to that way of thinking, try, and I know that of course it's a lot easier said than done. I'm working on this right now. I'm not perfect at it, but try to look at what you were able to do. You were able to get up despite feeling really overwhelmed, despite the barriers that came along with that. You were able to get into the bathroom. You were able to brush your teeth. No, you didn't get to taking a shower. That's okay, but you still made progress towards that, and we can try again next time. So really counting those small wins. And again, I'm just using the shower example as a really small example here, but this can pertain to much more, I guess, like important or bigger things in our lives. Going back to like the exercise example, maybe you didn't get to the gym today, but you were able to put on some workout clothes and you were able to stretch for 5 minutes. That's better than nothing. That's still progress. That's still taking steps towards that bigger end goal that you might have. And so even if like just thinking about it is really hard for you, you can even write it down. Like, you know what? I'm proud of myself for at least taking a few steps to getting towards whatever that thing is. I'm proud of myself for this. I'm proud of myself for that. And really try to acknowledge that, you know, it might seem like this is simple for everyone else, but for me, it is a challenge, and I was able to get up and at least make some progress towards whatever that end thing is. The next tip that I have is to, after breaking things down into baby steps, and after counting those baby steps as wins, I think at this point, hopefully there is a little bit more maybe like experience with whatever that thing is. Maybe there is a little bit more comfortability with whatever that thing is. And so now, especially pertaining to those bigger goals, and this might not necessarily apply to the shower example that I have, but maybe it's starting something new, maybe like a new job, a new exercise program, anything that's new and that has been uncomfortable and that has been really scary to even think about. Now that you've made some baby steps towards that and you've counted those baby steps as wins, now see if you can kind of expose yourself to whatever that thing is. I know for me, when I do something new, whether it's like a new hobby, going somewhere new, I like to have information about it just so I can be prepared. And for me also with OCD, there's like a fine line that I'm trying to find with this, where it's like, okay, I have enough information, I'm prepared, but I don't need to be super obsessive about it. And so maybe do a little bit of research. Maybe get yourself a little bit more comfortable with whatever that thing is. Since this third tip that I have applies to some of the bigger things, we're going to use maybe going to the gym is one of your goals, one of the things you want to start doing, and just thinking about that is overwhelming for you. Understandable. It's something new. You're not used to it. You don't know what to expect. Maybe looking on Yelp at some pictures of that gym, some reviews of that gym. Maybe even driving to the gym. You don't need to get out of your car yet, or walking to the gym or whatever, and just looking at it, watching a few people go in and out, and just kind of getting comfortable with how things operate. The next step could be going in, signing up for a membership, but you don't need to work out that day. And so it kind of like, it's those baby steps, but the more, I guess, like uncomfortable baby steps after we kind of get that momentum going, just familiarizing ourselves with that. Because I know for me, and I think that this does also relate to my autism, anything new is like I don't even know how to describe it, but like new things are really, really, really hard for me. And it's not necessarily because of the anxiety about it. It's more just that my brain doesn't know what to do with that. And so using the baby steps to familiarize your brain with that may also be really helpful. And then eventually, again, counting those wins, even if you didn't get to that big end goal, looking at the progress that you've made and being really proud of that. I think those are like the main things I have to kind of like get that motivation to tackle those things that you might have been putting off. I think one more thing that I want to say before ending the video is it doesn't have to be perfect, especially if it's something new. Take messy action. Messy action is still action, and you might make some mistakes along the way. It might feel like you're making no progress, but you are making progress by just taking that action, because that's better than just sitting and waiting. And I know that it's hard. I know that especially on those really challenging executive functioning days, that it sometimes feels impossible. So just pay attention to how you're feeling each day, and if it is something that is just like really daunting and overwhelming, it's okay if you don't get to it today specifically, but make a plan. Even if it feels a little bit uncomfortable, just take that next baby step and see where it leads you.